So for today's card, we're going to be looking at the Three of Cups. Now, the Three of Cups on the RWS system looks like this. And you can see that it looks like there are people celebrating. They are holding up 3 cups. There's 3 people there, and they seem to be having a great time. Now, this card is about community. It's about building friendships. It's about celebrating accomplishments and really taking the time to enjoy that. Now you can see that they have wine, not wine, but they have grapes, which represent wine, and that represents festivities. You have food down there at the bottom, fruit, representing abundance. And usually when when we celebrate things, when there's times to celebrate, there's food involved. So this is a good time. And we have those times in our lives when we really want to just look at the things that have been done and to recognize those goals that have been reached as a group, as a whole, as a society, as a community. And that's a great thing. So I like this card. This card has horses on it. Horses have great emotional intelligence. They're able to sense the feelings of the others in their community and to really recognize those things because it's important to the safety of the community. It's important to the overall health of everyone involved. And that's a great sense that they have. There are also horses that will be involved in helping heal. There are horses that, just like dogs, when they go and they're very healing, they can help people heal. Horses are the same way. And it takes them time to really feel people out, to feel their emotions. But once they do, they're very good at being in tune with that. And that's a part of relationships as well, to being sensitive to each other. And in the Science Tarot, we have symbiosis. Now, there are different types of symbiotic relationships. There are relationships that are mutual, where everyone involved benefits and everyone's built up. So like a bee and a flower, there's things that one organism brings and another one brings, and they work together that way. There is commensalism, in which one benefits, but the other in the relationship is just neutral, is not harmed or doesn't really get anything from it. And it doesn't bother the individual that is not receiving anything in this relationship. They don't even really notice. And then there's parasitism, in which one particular organism benefits, but it's to the detriment or the harm to the others or whoever the host is. And that's a negative type of relationship in a lot of ways. So this kind of covers the idea that everyone plays a role, everyone plays a part, and there are some important obligations and rules and things that we have to really establish in order to make relationships and bonds work, in order to accomplish goals together. And in the Thoth deck, we can see that it is the energy of Mercury and Cancer. So Cancer is more of an emotional energy, and Mercury is more of the energy of thought and communication. So together, that works really well, because when you actually put things in place and everything's not just based on emotion, and you have some sort of organization there, then when things arise, when you have issues, you're able to communicate and to solve those things. So those things go hand in hand. So that's why it's a very balanced card here. Now, there are some caveats and some warnings. You can see that on the Thoth system, there are pomegranates there as part of the cups. Now, those were used by Hades when Persephone went to the underworld, and it was tempting for her to partake in this fruit. And it kept her in the underworld. It was sort of an addiction for her. So every spring, every once in a while, she would come out from the underworld. But it cycled. And that's a reminder that these things are temporary, and our happiness should not be dependent on festivities and parties and the very highs in life, because after it's over, we have to go back to a certain type of feeling, a certain type of level. We can't stay at the celebration level every single moment of every single time, because that can become an addiction of itself, and that can become where you get the idea of drunkenness and the idea of overdoing it and just being irresponsible. And that's the drawback to this. That's the drawback to this, the overindulgence part of it. And that this card really does give you that warning. But at the same time, the cups, the water's flowing from cup to cup in a balanced way. Everyone's giving and doing their part. And you just have that double meaning represented really well in this card. Now, this card on the Kabalistic Tree of Life falls in the area number 3 here, Bina. That is the area of Saturn. And that's a really good area for this as well, because Saturn is a planet of order and structure and a planet of really setting out rules and regulations, which are things that, of course, in relationships, we don't really want to have to establish those things in the first place, because we want to have the hope that everything will go well. But there are things, because like on the RWS card, we saw that these people have on different clothing, right? They're going to have different weaknesses. So maybe they lack in trust. Maybe they lack in the ability to not become jealous or envious, or maybe they are, sensitive to certain things and the communication's not there. They may not be a good communicator. And those things need to be dealt with. And there needs to be things put in place to really work with that. Now, the Shimmering Veil Tarot, it's a beautiful card. I'm going to show you that. You can see that these people are intertwined and working together. But I love what it says for this card in the book. And so I want to read that. So it says, traditionally then, the Three of Wands is about friendship, synthesis, and sharing. Here it seems a supportive, ongoing give and take of feeling. And yet friendship is a delicate unit, often wreaked from within with our own fears and projections, which function in friendships just as much as other relationships. True friendship is precious indeed and takes honesty, trust, time, and commitment. Each friend is an individual, separate and often very different from ourselves. Each has his or her own life to lead and problems to overcome. Yet bonds are forged gradually over time, over years, or sometimes very fast when the meeting of the mind occurs. Some friendships are lifelong, some fade as our needs and the individuals themselves change. Okay? So I really like that. I think it sums it up really well. It kind of ties everything together. So this brings me to the element that I want to talk about, which is tantalum. And tantalum is very rarely found by itself alone. It is one of those elements that is usually bonded to something else. And early on, when they tried to identify it, it was hard to isolate it. And that made it just a challenge. And so that's kind of why it got its name. It was mistaken for other elements from time to time, but they were so close to finding it. And it was just kind of teasing mankind and mocking mankind, being just out of its reach and grasp. And so the scientists that finally isolated it named it tantalum because it was tantalizing. It was just out of reach. And so this metal, it is capable of really forming great alloys with other metals to make them stronger. It's used in all kinds of electronics to help us communicate, to help us grow as a society. It is woven into the fabric of our daily lives. You probably have it in your pocket in your cell phone. And the thing about it is, it's a very tempting element to use because there are some negative aspects of mining this element, and mankind has had to adapt to that. But it's very tempting to continue to use it because it is such a big part of our lives. So to give it up, we'd have to give up a lot. Or we'd have to change and make some sort of accommodations. But for the most part, this is a very good, solid element that we have around us. It's very good at working with us. It can be a part of our bodies, and our bodies don't attack it. It works really well with our biological part of our makeup. And so it's used in a lot of like hip replacements and things like that. Once it was isolated, he decided to name it tantalum, which is named after Tantalus, which is a god of a son of Zeus. And he was a king, and he was very, very, very much liked by the gods. They would invite him to all of their parties and their festivals, and he was in their inner circle, and they trusted him. They they worked with him, and they believed in him. And there was just a great relationship there. And as time went by, he was tempted. He was tempted to steal from the gods. And during one party, he stole some food and he stole some drinks, something called ambrosia, which was a nectar of the gods that he thought would make mankind immortal. So he wanted to take it to his people and give it to them so that it could be above the gods. And he stole it. And the gods found out about this. And they also found out that he was spying on them as they were talking during the gatherings. He would gather information and then take it back to men. Now, that's one thing. But then he also committed murder, which the gods were appalled by his actions. And once they took everything into account, he was punished for that. And the way he was punished was he was in a river and he would never be able to drink. So the water would always recede away from him. And then he would have these branches of fruit, wonderful, beautiful, all this food all around him, an abundance of things around him, but he could never reach it. It would always, the wind would blow it, and he would always, and so that was a lifetime of that, where he would suffer in that way. And the reason why this connects to the Three of Cups is because it's very tempting within relationships, whether it's with friends, coworkers, family members. It's very tempting to reveal secrets, to abuse trust, to not communicate, to do things that are maybe, if you're doing something that's not legal, then people are going to have to make decisions as to whether they want to support you or not. And there are dynamics to these relationships that need to really be established, like I was saying earlier. And if it's not, there's definitely consequences. And so the drawback, or the flip side to the Three of Cups, is it is a delicate, just like in the Shimmering Veil Tarot, it said it's a delicate relationship. And there are, like in the case with Persephone, the ups and downs. And so we have to take that into account and not really place our happiness in some of these types of things, because ultimately everyone's different and everyone has their choice and everyone has a part to play, a role to play. But it can be, absolutely can be, a beautiful thing to form these types of bonds and relationships and have these celebrations. It can be a wonderful thing that can make our lives so much better if we work together well, and if we are able to overcome some of the temptations that really do plague these relationships and make them fall. So remember that when you are forming community, forming bonds, relationships of trust, and building those things, and really helping each other to build emotionally and strengthen each other, because really what it comes down to is being there as a support, an emotional support, and holding up those emotions just like they're doing on the RWS card, and working together and having a safe place. And just like the horses on the other card there, they are a community that is aware of each other and aware of each other's feelings and weaknesses and strengths, and they're able to overcome the obstacles that are in their way and celebrate those accomplishments. So that is the information that I wanted to give you about the Three of Cups, about tantalum and how it relates to that. And thank you guys so much for joining me. If you are interested in learning more, especially about the Thoth system, then go ahead and I'll put the link below for you to check out Tarot Summer School. And I have a course there on the Thoth system where I really try to break everything down. And I'm really, really happy with that course. So definitely check that out. And thank you guys so much for being here. Thank you for being a part of this. It took me a little while to get this video up. I've been kind of busy doing a bunch of other things. Check out the Tarothon video. I really enjoy kind of explaining why I include the elements within my discussions. And that's it. So my name is Will. This is Atypical Tarot, and I'll see you next time. Bye.